Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of Important Work. I'm your host, Chris Angel, and I'm here with my guest and friend today, Ivan Farber. Hello, Ivan.
Hello, Chris. How are you?
I'm great. It's great to see you. You and I met through one of our clients and friends, James Adair, on his podcast called The Equity Accelerator. And I don't know, man. I felt like we had this good connection. You're super gracious. Like every time you message me, you're just always very complimentary. But I feel like we have many things in common, which is so strange.
Like brothers from another mother.
Yeah, like that. Like brothers from another mother. Exactly.
And same tribe. Absolutely.
Yeah, and totally same tribe. Yeah. So I'm excited to talk to you today because you're very perceptive. If I had to just sort of like talk about what I know about Ivan in the little time that we've known each other, you're very perceptive, very intelligent. And I feel like you lead with a lot of empathy. Like you have this ability to really connect to other people. And I'm just guessing that's a lot of your life's work. Like you get to pass on some of the things you've learned about how to do that through You've written a book called Conversations, and you have a show now called Conversations About Conversations. So, I mean, let's start with some backstory because that'd be good. What do you do professionally? How long have you done that? Let's just start there.
Yeah, I've been in financial services my whole career. I currently work as a relationship manager at a privately held financial services company. And then as a outside activity, I do speaking and coaching and writing and training. And then of course, in working with you, created my own show.
Yeah, I love it. So good. So you've been doing that for, what you say your career has been like, what, 20 plus years?
25 years.
Wow. That's crazy. I don't feel like you and I are old enough to have anything that's been 25 years.
I gave a presentation earlier this week to a room of people who weren't alive when I started in the business world.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it's a weird thing.
That is weird.
But,
that feels weird just saying it.
But it feels good to have experience.
Right?
Being on the block, it's not necessarily that exciting or fun. So.
Seriously, like we worked hard to get here. Like now we're here. Like I think, like take a moment and appreciate, like here you are.
Time of our lives.
I know, right? For real, for sure. Absolutely, for sure. Well, talk me about Conversations. First of all, let's talk about your book, Conversations. What's the subtitle?
The subtitle is How to Manage Your Business Relationships One Conversation at a Time.
Yep. Now, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that there's a lot written about public speaking.
Yeah. There's
a lot written about sales and customer service. But that overlap between sales and service, and then also one-on-one relationships or one-on-two, there's not a lot there. And I've made a lot of mistakes. I've learned a lot of lessons. I've had a lot of good coaching, training, and mentoring. I put all that together in my book, Conversations.
Yeah. There's, when I was coaching real estate agents, I would, the conversation for most businesses is lead generation. It's like, how do I get more leads? Until most businesses solve that question, like there is no other issue because you're going to continue to be on an income roller coaster and be frustrated by not being able to have the abundance that you want or need, not just for livelihood, but to build what you want to build. Most of us that have important work have a vision. We want to build stuff and you need resources for that. So people would ask in real estate, people would say like, well, I want to get some leads. And I'm like, look, I can teach you how to do relationship-based marketing, but ultimately it's always going to come back to a conversation. The lead shows up in a conversation. And which is so great because I think people can easily overlook conversations. That's
right. There was a post I did a week or two ago that the title was, are you a transaction manager or are you a relationship manager? And in the role that I currently serve in, we don't make any money unless I hold on to the client. So retention is first and foremost how we make money. And so much more of a relationship versus, of course, salespeople can be more of a transaction.
Right. Yeah. And I think that it's easy for solopreneurs, people in business for themselves to think that way. Like, because it feels like the fastest path to cash. Like I need to go make a sale. I need to get a sale. How do I get people in the door? And which is fine. And there are strategies for that in marketing, which is what we teach. But at the end of the day, your ability to have a conversation, not just with them in person. Maybe this is where my stuff comes in. Having a conversation with people through your content or through your marketing is also another way to do it. But either way, you need to have conversations. What are some of the foundational pieces to successful conversations?
Well, the first place always to start is with rapport. And rapport isn't always what people think it is. It's not always, well, we went to the same school or we from the same. It could be as simple as just matching, mirroring. But whenever you sense that you don't have rapport, and one definition I use for rapport is just, you can tell that you like the other person and you trust the other person. And if you like and trust them, it's likely that they like and trust you. And if you're finding that there's anything really difficult going on, that probably means rapport is out. And
that's really cool.
Concept is building it from the start, but as you're going through a conversation and you start to find some kind of difficulty or some trust, you have to reestablish it. And that's a real art. It's not
Give me some more of that. So some of it is mirroring and matching. Some of it could be things you have in common. What other things create rapport?
Well, you can sink into someone's modal patterns. Like, are they visual? Are they auditory? Are they kinesthetic? So if something, hey, that doesn't look right to me, and you come back with, well, I don't know how you feel, then you have a conflict between the way they language it and the way you language it. You also have situations where people are internal processors or external processors. And if you're having a conversation with someone who's an internal processor and you keep firing off questions and statements and you're firing and firing, and they're like, whoa, I need to process this.
That's good. Yeah.
The kinesthetic folks tend to talk more slowly. They tend to look down at their core and kind of feel it down here. You need to slow your pace to match the kinesthetic folks.
Wow. That's so crazy. Now, so I want to poke at this a little bit, because I feel like it would be easy for people who have been in business any length of time, that have been to sales trainings or things, to feel like this is manipulation. And I want to distinguish between, like, are we manipulating people, or what's another way to look at this? Because people could use these techniques for manipulation, but
they could.
But you don't operate from that place. So what's the other way to look at this for those that are kind of stuck in an old thought pattern about this?
Well, I mean, to be authentic, it is manipulation in a certain way, because you're in a conversation and you want to guide the outcome. The word manipulation has gotten a bad rap because it has pejorative terms and, oh, you're evil and devious if you do that. But if you think about what's normal in a conversation, in order to get rapport with somebody, you're going to match them. You're going to want to find simpatico and view things the same way, or hear things the same way. So it's just putting consciousness to something actually people do automatically. I always, if you have that power, if you have that knowledge, if you use it for good, then So, Tony Robbins, of course, talks about how people who are like each other. And, the classic thing is someone has their arms crossed and you cross your arms, and you want to do enough that's matching that it's not obvious, but you'll see this all day long. So it's both conscious, but not. You'll see people standing in a room, they all have their arms crossed, or they have their hands down like a fig leaf, or whatever it is, or both people are, being pensive. So does that answer what you were asking?
Yeah, I think so. I think, like, for me, I feel like your heart in it is what makes the thing. I mean, I get your point that, to be authentic, to be technical, it is still, there's a manipulation in its most objective definition. There's a manipulation happening. We're trying to create something intentionally. And to do that, you have to not accidentally have it. You have to manipulate the energy in the thing to create the thing you're trying to produce. But I think, like, when your heart is for people and for the best outcome of this exchange, then I think now you have tools that actually can support the actual important work you're trying to do in the world, rather than just letting it happen by chance.
Right. And I'll add that it's not just to match people who you are seeing things eye to eye and maybe went off course a little bit. Like the techniques that I've experimented with and that work can work with like really gruff people. That post that I did dealing with an upset person.
Yeah, I remember that.
You know, matching, they'll get gruff with you. You don't want to mock them, but at the same time, you kind of got to feel the way they feel. And by holding your body in the same way or using the same tone of voice that they're using.
Right.
As long as it's not completely overt as a mocking, it really works. In fact, you feel like they feel. And Tony Robbins would say, I can elicit a lot about a person by just looking at them and seeing how they're sitting. And like, you kind of know when someone's sitting like this, you can feel that.
Yeah.
It's an art. Rapport is an art. It's an art form.
Of course. So that brings up a good point though. You talk about feeling. I think a lot of times in conversations, whether it's a digital conversation through marketing or a conversation you're having in person, there's this element of feeling. Whether you're kinesthetic or not, by the way, I think all humans feel. So feeling to me feels like empathy. Like talk to me about empathy and the role of conversations and making conversations work.
I mean, empathy is putting yourself in someone else's shoes. So the next skill that I talk about in the book, chapter 2, is use questions skillfully. And what people do, and I do still, make a lot of assumptions. So you hear something, someone says something, and then you assume what they mean. And one of the things I think is really important is to use your open-ended questions so that you can actually hear all the way around the point of view or the worldview or whatever it is. I call it, using your journalist questions, your who, what, when, where, why, how. And then kind of visually sitting, moving over. See, I'm a visual, but visually moving over and sitting in that circumstance before you respond, before you try to give an idea. So actually, now where does this come from? I grew up in a family of mental health practitioners. My father was a psychiatrist. So I can, of course, say I saw a psychiatrist every day when I was growing up. My mother was a psychologist, a therapist. And so I think a lot of the use of questions, the empathy, I think it just comes from that upbringing.
You're right. I think there's a lot of, I didn't obviously have the same upbringing that you did, but there was definitely something that clicked for me. I don't know when it was, but that listening, I realized that if I could ask more questions, I got more of the picture. Right. And I started to notice that a lot of people just steamroll a conversation. They talk over you. They don't really listen to you. And whereas I would actually hang back and I would actually ask twice as many questions because it gave me better understanding of what is actually happening. And it helps me create, I think, better solutions and better empathy, better rapport, all of that.
That's right. Like people say you have to peel an onion to center of things. My favorite metaphor, though, is peeling a pomegranate. While onions have 10, 11 layers, according to Wikipedia, pomegranates have all these sections, and there's a lot of juice and tasty juice, or sometimes sour juice. I mean, and pulp, and that's true of human interaction. Right. But yeah, I believe in peeling the pomegranate. I think that when you really manage relationships intentionally and for the good of the arrangement, both business and also really being in people's lives, you have to get to a level of depth that's like inside things. Right. My experience is that what most salespeople do is they start to peel the first layer of the onion, and then they forget that they're peeling an onion, and they just go back to autopilot, presenting products and services, and here's here's my recommendation, and they haven't even got to the second layer.
That reminds me of, did you watch, old school, did you watch Hoosiers, the movie?
I haven't seen Hoosiers.
Oh, it's like forever ago. I was a kid when I saw it, obviously. Great movie, such a great movie. There was a scene where he made them, it's a basketball movie, and he made the team, they had to pass 5 times before they could take a shot because people were just coming down the floor and shooting and it wasn't working, and he was trying to teach them something new. Well, similarly, I think like you listening to this, I don't know where you're at with your level of question asking, but you could play a game with yourself called, I'm going to ask 5 questions or I'm going to ask 10 questions. I mean, look, err on the side of too many questions. I'm going to
Right.
ask 10 questions before I say anything that I want to say, because there's so much richness that comes out as people start sharing. I don't think listening is a very rare skill, and most people aren't listened to in life. So when you provide listening ears, I think people will gladly share.
It's amazing. You can ask one question. Tell me about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have the discipline to let them tell you about themselves.
Yeah.
I have conversations where they go on for 45 minutes to an hour.
Yep. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. People will be like, oh, I've been talking. I'm like, that's okay. Well, tell me some more. Like, tell me more. What else? And then more stuff comes.
It's a little bit, I mean, this is an analogy with dating to being a relationship manager in business, but
yeah,
I really feel like when I get into a business relationship with someone, it's a marriage. And so I don't want a short date.
Right.
I don't want chaperones, right? Like I want a good long, like the longer the first date, it can be the better.
That's a good point. Yeah.
You don't want to go too long, just like in dating. You don't want to go too long, but you want it to be long enough so that you can really start to get to know people's needs. That's actually the fourth for my book, is focusing on needs.
Yeah.
I'm moving through here because the third chapter is about listening.
Right. Yeah. Right. Right. So listening, then the fourth chapter is about needs.
Yes.
Yeah. That's so good. So is there anything, I mean, obviously there's a ton to that. What do you talk about in the chapter on needs?
And I really focus on, later in the book, I talk about like matching specific products and services to needs and how to do it, but really going with human needs. My favorite concepts is by psychologist Abraham Maslow, who came up with theory on a hierarchy of needs. And part of my important work, and I got tremendous acknowledgement from this just yesterday. Part of important work is helping people move up the pyramid. So if you're not familiar with it, or for those listening who are not familiar with it, it starts with a base of getting your physiological needs met first. It's like hunger. You can't see straight when you're hungry. Not yourself when you're not hungry, to use the Snickers commercial. Needs, like once you're not hungry anymore, then you're like, am I safe? Then above that, do I belong? Do I have friends? Do I have a group? Do I have affiliation with people? The next layer, according to Abraham Maslow, is esteem needs. You know, am I being successful? Do people have esteem for me? Do I have esteem for myself? And then the final point of the pyramid is self-actualization. Like, are you living into my mentee, who I'm working with right now? He said, I saw your post about helping people up the pyramid. He said, that's what you're doing for me. And I really got that at that moment. So when I say conversations are my life's work, my important life's work, I want to raise the whole game in the business world. Yeah. I feel like the business world is going on autopilot and nobody's really practicing or thinking about what they're doing.
So true. I see this all the time in marketing, because people are constantly just saying, here's my thing, buy it, or self-promoting. And there isn't a connection. There isn't listening. There isn't empathy. There isn't, and it's not really speaking to a needs. Like one of the things we do in our 6-week intensive programs, we actually go to look at what are the problems and the pains of people, which you have to use empathy to get there and to really feel into the needs of people, and then have to speak to that. But in an in-person thing where you're having a consultation or whatever, like getting to the needs of it is so, I think it's so critical for it to be relevant, for people to feel like they don't have buyer's remorse and they're like, no, this was a good choice to work with you. I wanted to work with you because you got me.
Exactly.
Yeah. What comes after needs?
You know, it's so great. I was going to ask you, do you want me to go on after that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess we're on a roll now. I felt like that seems like the next logical thing.
So the fifth chapter is the first half of the book. The fifth chapter is called Exercise Self-Control. And we were talking about manipulation earlier, of control. I mean, I don't want to be manipulative. I don't want to be over controlling in a conversation. But the reality is there are results that we want. And we would love to have control, but the other reality is you can't control another person because you can barely control yourself. And so I go through strategies of how to maintain self-control and how the self-control is essential for you to have rapport and use questions skillfully and listen and focus on needs. And so that first half of the book is really the fundamentals, the foundation for my philosophy. And I fully admit there's many philosophies about how to do conversations.
Right.
This is mine. Now, the second half of the book, in case you're wondering, the second half of the book is structural. The acronym that I use is CLEAR. So I believe that conversations need to be created. Obviously, the L is kind of brought from chapter 3 back into chapter 7, which is listen.
Yep.
Listen, explore, and we've been talking a lot about that. So a lot of the skills that are earlier in the book come back in to explore later.
Right. Yeah, that makes total sense.
And when I say address, you're addressing needs as well as objections. A lot of people feel like they don't want objections, and they'll do all sorts of things to kind of dance around a conversation to avoid having objection, hearing a no. But you want to fully vet that out before you do the last thing, the R, which is resolve. Come to kind of resolution, even if that resolution isn't like a ticket or a sale or whatever. It's what's next for this relationship. It's like inventing in the future to come back at you in the present.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. I love that you can take something that has the principles of it, but also work it into like a process, like something that helps me pare down the world of conversations and communication like that. It's really good.
And it's every conversation well, okay, when I'm conscious or sometimes unconsciously competent, so what I've learned again and again and again, if it's not going well, then I'm not using my own method. It's like, I'm not eating my own dog food. I made it.
Right.
But one of the tactics I have is on my monitor next on my computer, I have a list of the 10 lessons, which are the 10 chapters. Yeah. And before every call, to kind of center myself, I look at them. I'm like, okay, how am I going to do this, this, and this? And then after a call, I can evaluate myself on a scale of 1 to 10. How did I do on my own criteria?
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll get off a phone call and I'll say, that wasn't pretty. I was like 5.5 out of 10 of my own criteria.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you're on and like, yeah, I did 10 for 10 there.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that I don't think, and that's actually, I did forget a chapter. There's a chapter of planning. If you don't have an outline, if you don't know where you're going to take the conversation, I mean, the cliche is if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Right.
I mean, and there's a lot of, you could make it. You could make it with planning, but certainly when you do the things that I have recommended and have learned because I've made mistakes with, it's better.
Yeah, totally. When you think about entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, people in business, what is one of the problems that gets in their way from having effective conversations?
I mean, it almost always comes back to listening.
They don't listen. The problem is they don't listen.
I mean, we all don't listen. Right? Like we just listening is probably, so you can have rapport with usually like 7 or 8 out of 10 people. Just, you have like a normal overlap for rapport. It's the 1 or 2 or 3 out of 10 that you might have to be conscious.
Right.
But in terms of listening, you said it earlier, very few people are truly listened to in this world. And it's one of the primal needs that people have to be heard, along with that, be understood, be known, liked. It's fun. People just.
So if you thought about like how that trickles down from, okay, so the problem is we're not listening. How does that trickle down into like the symptoms that come from not listening? Like, so I don't listen to you or anybody. And how does my life start to look? What have you noticed about people's lives?
I mean, there's like a bullseye and you're not listening. So you as the salesperson or so you just missed the mark completely. Yeah. So you're created. Yeah. Or you're guessing. Say,
so good.
If I had something to show you and it's a house, or let's say a realtor, it's like, I have a couple houses in mind to show you. And then start in with a list of closed-ended questions. Are you looking for something that's 4-bedroom? Are you looking for something, and they'll go through and it'll be closed-ended question after closed-ended question after closed-ended question. Instead of just saying,
right,
what are you looking for?
Right.
And then listening, and I have a lot of strategies of making sure you don't interrupt, making sure you don't talk. And you know, Rodin's the thinker is
putting
or, you know,
fist in front of your face. Yeah. Drinking water. Yeah.
And I have people that give me feedback all the time, like, I'm doing that now. And I said, well, the benefit is you're also hydrating more as well.
Right. Seriously. You're right. Because there's a lot of, if you're missing the mark, so a lot of people in business that don't listen, when you don't listen, you're going to create solutions for people that miss the mark. You're going to try to have marketing that misses the mark. You're going to try to create retention that misses the mark. There's just a lot of places where then when you're missing the mark, it creates so much more work. Like your experience of work is exhausting. When what you got into your business, it was a self-expression for you. But now because you keep missing the mark, because you're simply not listening, everything feels so heavy and it becomes a burden. And so the thing that was once a love for you has become a burden for you. I see this all the time.
Yeah, it costs. It's inefficient. It costs people income. I mean, so many solopreneurs, entrepreneurs have trouble getting started. And I guess from my philosophy, my point of view, you can't let any relationship not like fruit that dies on the vine. Like you need to nurture that fruit and be able to pluck it there. And if you're not listening, not addressing needs, the fruit's going to just die on the vine.
So I don't leave people in like, just like, you know, your life sucks and you started a business out of love, but now you hate your life. Like there is something possible on the other side of listening. And it, like, I don't want to overcomplicate it. Like listening really could give you it's really one of those 20% things that could give you 80% of your results. What have you seen for you and for others that you mentor when people start listening? What opens up for people?
Well, a lot of the pretense goes away. Because you remove a lot of the attachment to a certain outcome. Yeah. Because if you just say, so back to clear. So you create, and inside of create, you get an agreement for what the conversation is for. Mm-hmm. Not what it's about, but what it's for. So start. Because what people do is their client will call up and they'll say, can you give me my balance? And they'll just go right into it. Instead of saying, I'll be happy to give you your balance. What else? So as you get agreement on the front end and create all with the other person, then listen, then explore. It's like, okay, asking for your balance. What else do you need today? How are things going? Like ask. One of the things I write about is that people ask one rapport question. And I say, you really have to ask 3 rapport questions. Because the first one, how are you? Fine. What's going on? Nothing much. But if you ask that third question, like, well, how's your family? Then you get that. So create and explore at a level of depth. So good. You'll find there's needs out of your exploration. You'll find objections to what you're doing or what you're about to propose, and you finally propose it. Yeah. So to your question, though, specifically what's possible is like really easy conversations where people are afraid normally to get into a conversation where there might be objections. I was going to say, like from Ghostbusters, afraid no ghost, but I ain't afraid of no objection. Right. Because also I've thought through what objections are, and there's actually only a few of them. Yeah. But people are like, I don't know, I'm gonna get ambushed with objections. Like, what's gonna happen? Right. They're all tight and clinched, and conversation goes the wrong path. Yeah. Yes, I agree. When you start to listen, it becomes easy. Like conversations become not only easy, but like it's really enjoyable when you start to really hear what people, like there's a different level you tap into where you start to hear what people are really playing for. You're like, oh my God, like what you're giving your life to is incredible. And you start to have this like connection to what they're trying to accomplish, that wouldn't happen if you hadn't listened or asked 3 rapport questions or something. Like, for me, it's always like the trick is to get to the real stuff where people really start to share and not the deflection in the first couple answers, Exactly. Once they're open, then it's pretty easy and like they're willing to share, which is really good. So, and I would add, and you might add to this too, I feel like once you start to have the real conversation with people, right, because they feel open enough to share and they feel like you're listening, then I feel like all the stuff you're trying to do in your business with people, now you can actually create real solutions. You can't create real solutions until you get to the real issues, So when it's inauthentic, it's like building a big building on the sand. Like there's no foundation.
Yeah.
And authenticity really is the route to productive relationships, both business and personal.
There you go. And I think maybe if I go back to the beginning of our conversation, like that for me is what makes this not a manipulation. Like it's when you have an authentic exchange, now there's something real that can get created. And if it's just manipulation in that I don't care about you, I'm just trying to win this situation, manipulating that way, then it's not a win-win. But when you're getting clear about what they're wanting and what's happening, then you can create something that's a win-win.
We could even put an even nicer term on it, but actually a true term is leadership.
Yeah.
Like someone's over there, arms crossed, gruff, and you go like, okay, they're gruff. I'm going to just match them a little bit. But once you get that rapport and there starts to be some ease in it, then they'll start to pace and match you. Yeah. One thing that I've taken a few classes on is Burnsian psychology, where you have parent, child, adult, and you have the 3 states.
Yeah.
And being in an industry like I'm in financial services with money, people can easily migrate into child out of fear or parent. What do you know? And where you really have a logical conversation is at adult. And so there's certain ways that you have to be able to adapt to. But again, I know manipulation has a bad rep, but it's leadership. It's then leading someone to where you are, but you sometimes have to go where they are before they can come where you are. Yeah,
totally. So good. I love it. Well, this is a conversation that could really go layers deep, seeds deep, like pomegranate deep with all the nuance to it. And I think your book is a great place for people to start. If people want to read your book and dive into how to have better conversations, where do they get your book?
Well, the book's available on Amazon. You would type in Conversations, How to Manage Your Business Relationships, One Conversation at a Time, or Conversations, Ivan Farber. To make it easier for you, all you have to do is go to conversations.biz, which is my website, and on the website is a link right to Amazon as well.
Perfect. Yeah, conversations.biz. What a great domain. That's so simple. Keep it simple. I love it. Ivan, thanks for the important work you're doing in this world. I really do believe that conversations are this lost art. Maybe it was, I don't even ever, it was an art. I don't know, but I do feel like it's something that's needed in this day and age, especially in business. So thanks for that. I love all of your book, and thank you for being in my program.
My pleasure, Chris. Thank you for having me.
See ya. Do you have important work in the world? We can help you produce a show just like this one and get your message out in the world. Go to mygroundswell.com to connect with us now.